Episode 61 Smack Talk. We are back every Wednesday, myself and Ding. This week, we are breaking down all four of the title matches taking place. Power Slap number 13 is part of International Fight Week. We're going to get into it. We're going to dive into it. And we've got a new feature called the Top 3, where Ding and I break down our top 3 favorite moments of a particular topic. You're going to want to stay tuned for that. It's going to be exciting. This episode is powered by Head Rush. What is up, Ding? We're back again. Let's check the mics. Let's make sure everything is rolling smooth. We've got a ton of information to break down now. Power Slap 13, it's made official, taking place June 27th as part of International Fight Week. We knew we were going to have a card. We didn't know it was going to be this big. We've got 4 matches. The headliner, Dane Viernes, taking on Dumpling. We also have the first ever women's title match between Paige Vanzant and Mikael-Michelle Brown. The second time that these athletes are squaring off up there at the table. Incredibly exciting to get this new division and get a women's belt out there. Positive growth for the sport overall. We have 2 more matches, Ding. Let the folks know what's going on.
Yeah, absolutely. We have, earlier this year, we did our top 5 of matches that we thought had to happen in 2025. 3 of those matches already took place. One of those matches is going to take place June 27th. That's Azael Rodriguez dropping down to welterweight to challenge the current reigning defending welterweight champion Anthony Babyface Blackburn in his welterweight debut against the champion. Really, really anticipated match. I think this one, based on what we did online, is probably the most anticipated match. This is the top versus the top, and people are incredibly excited to see how that match turns out. There's a lot of questions to be answered on both sides. We'll get into that a little bit later on. And then finally, we talked about it. It was broke on this here platform. Wolverine exiting retirement officially. We didn't know what that would look like. Now we know June 27th, he will defend his light heavyweight championship against one Russel Rivero, a guy that's probably the scariest guy in the light heavyweight division at 205 pounds. Somebody that has had an opportunity for the title before, was unable to capitalize, and now he's worked his way back. He's had a number of great performances, and now he challenges the proverbial GOAT to get his light heavyweight strap.
Absolutely. I mean, Dana White has compared Wolverine to Tom Brady being the GOAT of Power Slap, and we're going to see his legacy continue. We'll get into it more. I mean, Wolverine, as we spoke about in the show before, had that, go off in the sunset moment against Vernon Cathy. Could it get any better than that? I mean, we'd say not. But he's coming back once again to put his belt on the line and show that he's still not done in Power Slap. And as you alluded to, Russel Rivero had his opportunity against AJ Hints very early on, committed a stepping foul. I remember being there in the audience, and it was electrifying. Russell was incredibly excited, and then he was incredibly mad once he got called for disqualification, and AJ Hints still held on to the title in the the light heavyweight division. So you may see things looking a little bit differently here around Smack Talk. We're incredibly excited to announce that we are partnering with Head Rush. We're going to be powered all the way through Power Slap 13 with Head Rush. We're going to be working hand in hand with them to, enhance everything that we are doing. We're trying to obviously improve our programming every sense of the way. As you know, at Slap News, we're going to continue to increase our coverage around events, leading into events as well. And you're going to see more structure, things that you're going to, be able to see starting here at this show. We're going to do myself and Ding's top 3. Incredibly excited to debut that segment, and really excited to see what you guys think about it overall as we continue to move and grow. Ding, we get the announcement. But there's no shortage of things going on. Let's get into something that's kind of funny. Smack Talk kind of happened to be on the same day as the International Slap an Idiot Day. And seems that Donald Duck looks like he's got a full schedule. I think a lot of Power Slap athletes have a full schedule today, because let's look at it, man. I think the beef is at an all-time high. If you go onto our social and you see the comments back and forth between strikers within the division, outside of the division, I've never seen the animosity build the way that it is now. And I know you've spoke about it as well with the new crop of athletes that potentially are coming into Power Slap, that this is going to be taken to a whole new level. Just happens to be on International Slap an Idiot Day. Ding, is there anybody that you would like to go on record alive, inside or outside of Power Slap, that you'd like to slap on this day?
Big Jeeves.
Big Jeeves?
Always love to slap Big Jeeves. Any day of the week, I'd give my man Jeeves a good one.
Why is that?
Jeeves and I are probably two sides of the same coin in a lot of ways, and I think we both want just greatness. And I think in a lot of ways you sort of have that personality too, but I just think he and I clash because of that sometimes. So behind the scenes, a little secret, Big Jeeves and I are, if we're not going at it, something's wrong.
Too funny, my man. Too funny. But today's the day to do it. You can say whatever you want without judgment. You can say it here on this show because it is Slap an Idiot Day. So incredibly excited, my man. Like I said, everything that we're doing here at Slap News, just keep working hard. And we appreciate all of you guys, the fans, the followers, everybody who watches this show, whether you're watching it live right now on YouTube or Facebook, or you're watching the playback later on as well on Apple Podcast or any other platform that we are streaming this to. We appreciate everybody and all your contributions, all of your likes, all of your follows, the content, the engagement that you guys do. And I really think we're fostering a very strong community here at Slap News. And if you haven't done so already, we are launching a ton of exclusive content, early content to our insiders group over on Instagram. Free to join that. You'll know about information that we know, before we release it to the general public. So Ding is working that incredibly hard. We don't spam you. I mean, you're not getting more than one message a day in that inside group. And we're incredibly excited to keep bringing you guys a ton of new information, content, and all that stuff to continue to be the leaders in the content creation game around Power Slap. All right, Ding.
That was a mouthful, Corey, but I got to ask you before we head into the fun stuff, man. I'm not going to let you off the hook here. It is National Slap an Idiot Day, so I think it'd only be right if I asked you, who's the idiot that you'd be slapping?
100%. I'm going to go with Mr. One and Only F3. Not sure if Mr. F3 is watching this, but I like to slap an idiot. And F3, you were on my radar today. I know you did a lot of work for me today, but a lot of times you piss me off. So that's what I'm going to do. Mr. F3, you're getting slapped on International Slap an Idiot Day.
All right. Well, let's hope F3 sticks with us after he sees this.
Yeah, let's see if he shows up to work tomorrow. Today's go after coworker day, I guess, isn't it, Ding?
Incredible. Yeah. You got me going against Big Jeeves and you going against our F3, our brainchild here.
Yeah, I mean, you know what? It's just getting started. I mean, Ray D, the producer, too. I'd slap that idiot as well. I see him enough, and doesn't hurt to.
That's what I thought you were gonna say. I won't lie to you.
Okay. Well, here's what I'm gonna do, and it just coincides that they're actually both Filipinos. So I'm gonna pull out the Luke Simons Slap an Idiot Day. So I'm gonna slap F3 on the front, come back to Ray D, the producer, on the backhand. How's that? 2 for 1.
There you go.
2 for 1.
I wasn't that creative.
Yeah. Well, I just cut you a drop. You're gonna have to make a nice fancy video, put both their faces in there, little animation to make it happen.
Yeah. You know what? I think, but if I slap Big G's, I'm slapping an entire a huge country called India. So I think that I probably get the W there.
Have you dropped the whole Viva la India thing, or are you still rocking that?
I have not.
No. There's actually many chapters to the relationship between you and Big Jeeves, and a lot of people on the outside don't know it, and
they don't,
and they probably never will. But it's good and comical and fun to keep going at it either way. But let's move on. Let's talk about the headliner, Dumpling, taking on Dane Viernes. Overall, the headline match for Power Slap number 13, the big boys, the super heavyweights. I mean, Dane Viernes coming into this match trying to avenge the loss that his brother had to Crazy Hawaiian against Dumpling. Dumpling took the title from him. He brought it to Russia. The first time we have an international champion. Dumpling has been into America before, obviously fighting Camille in his first ever event in Power Slap, is coming back to American soil in, a fitting fashion. International Fight Week to continue to grow the sport. Let's dive into this one. How did we get here, Ding? And why are these two athletes squaring off?
Yeah, you know what? I think ultimately Power Slap 11 obviously was a pretty monumental time. It was the rematch between the Crazy Hawaiian and the Dumpling after the draw at Power Slap 9 in Abu Dhabi back in October. Dane Viernes was on the undercard for that. He was competing against a Russian by the name of Denis Vildanov, also known as Big Papa. A little bit of history. He fought the Dumpling. Dennis did. He's also a Russian. Dennis fought the Dumpling in I don't know if it was bare knuckle boxing, so I don't want to misspeak. So I'll just say boxing, and they fought to a draw. Fast forward, now they're in Power Slap. Dennis fights the Hawaiian Hitman and gets knocked out in the second round. The Crazy Hawaiian fights the Dumpling for the second time and loses the match. So now I think you have two storylines that are sort of playing at the same time. Number one, there's a mutual opponent in that Denis Vildanov, right? In boxing, the Dumpling couldn't put him out. They fought to a draw. He actually didn't even win. Dane Viernes puts him out on the second slap in slap fighting. The Crazy Hawaiian obviously gets the draw in the first fight with the Dumpling. In the rematch is unfortunately on the wrong side of a decision, loses the championship belt. Now you talk about after Dane has a performance like that where he's kind of returning after, coming off of the back of, let's just call it what it is, pretty lackluster performances and some losses. The slap for cash knockout was how he entered the sport. Unfortunately, that's turned to a no contest, so it doesn't count as a win on his record anymore. So now at this point in time, this is his first win in Power Slap against Dennis. It comes in the fashion that it comes in. Now you have the opportunity for the Dumpling to avenge a loss against his fellow Russian. You have obviously the Hawaiian Hitman, the opportunity to avenge the loss for his brother, the Crazy Hawaiian, that another slap fighting legend and potentially a GOAT out there. So I think that these storylines are too interesting to sort of mash together. And I'll say I think there's probably mixed reviews from the fan base based on the comments, based on some DMs. I won't put anybody out there, but I think the record is concerning for some people. Going up there, you got 1 win, 2 losses, and a no contest. Doesn't really scream title, opportunity or being worthy for a title shot. But I do think on the storyline front, should he be able to get this done, I think that there's sort of a new era for the Polynesians at 267 plus pounds.
100%. Dane Viernes, didn't mix words. He hasn't always trained to the best of his ability for his, run and power slap. He's had a ton of things happen to him along the way, car accidents, illnesses, family, issues. And you know what? I'll say in a lot of ways, even just laziness. He hasn't always prepared. He's gone to fights, not training. He got out of the boxing gym, everything else that he was doing that, helped him get into this sport. He's kind of lost his way a little bit. He had a suspension early on in his career as well, obviously coinciding with the slap for cash, as you alluded to, that was changed to a no contest. And so he hasn't always had, the clearest path to get here. And then when we look at the flip side of this, we've got Dumpling, a guy who came in here, against Camille, rock star, a guy that has a ton of experience in slap fighting, as well as bare knuckle, coming into Power Slap, has, fought his brother, the Crazy Hawaiian, twice. The Crazy Hawaiian, I guess the first one ended in a draw. The second one, obviously, Dumpling coming out victorious. It's going to be interesting to see, can the Dumpling continue on with the prowess that he's had? We haven't seen him dazed really in Power Slap. If I can think back, I believe the first time the Crazy, cracked him good, I believe in round 3 or round 4. But, it wasn't in any, particular, danger of going down. He was in a little bit of discomfort and didn't like it, but he was, in full control, and his defensive game seems to be quite strong. And the more that he can adapt to the rules here in Power Slap, I think the more dangerous he becomes. We've seen very early on, he wasn't familiar with, the rules, obviously using a translator in Abu Dhabi the first time that he fought the Crazy Hawaiian. And so as he kind of goes on here, learns the rules, we've seen, footage of Mark Smith working with him and the other Russians via translator to really make sure that they know the full rule set in Power Slap. And I'm sure Mark Smith will once again, be very diligent working with the Russians to make sure that the rules are set and in place and they're full aware of it. And I'm sure Mark will probably, ref that match. And Mark is really, a saint when it comes to Power Slap and, one of the top refs that they obviously have and leading the way for athlete safety and really pushing the sport forward. So, we're here now. Dane Viernes coming in with a 1-2-1 record. going up against Dumpling, who's, I guess, 2-1 at this particular moment in Power Slap. And we're going to see the big boys collide. Ding, I want you to get into it for me. I want you to break down the keys to victory and what Dane Viernes needs to do to pull out a victory in this one.
Yeah, I think my first instinct tells me, fouls are a concern. Obviously, he had the disqualification loss to Evian Scott, 2 stepping fouls. I think at some point in time, stepping fouls has kind of that rule that I guess the enforcement of that has changed maybe a little bit. We haven't seen. It seems to be a pride point for the organization. There hasn't been stepping fouls in the last, whatever it is. I think it's 3 events or something like that. And so I think that the stepping is probably less of a concern. He didn't have any fouls against Dwayne Crespo. If I'm not mistaken, he did not have any fouls against Dennis. So maybe he's turned over a new leaf. But as you mentioned, I think the lack of training is probably what we saw up there where he was, committing these fouls. I think he's very powerful. I think he has to remain composed. And I think that the biggest thing for him is going to be, obviously we saw Dennis hit him. He looked kind of uncharacteristic in a way that we've never seen, where he was kind of stumbling around. I think Dumpling probably has similar, if not more power. So I think that on his side, if he can just do what he normally does but on the defensive side, he needs to absorb those shots really well. I think that that'll be the difference maker here. I think power versus power. I believe that Dumpling will probably be able to take his shots. I think he needs to focus on his chin, his reaction, his recovery when it comes to when the Dumpling hits him. And I think that he can get himself a decision in this match.
Yeah. And I mean, let's not forget, Dane Viernes is, can strike with his left and with his right. Is he going to be able to unleash some confusion on Dumpling? I mean, we haven't seen Dumpling hit on the left side, and we have heard from Dane in the past that his left is, his preferred hand to strike with. And so we're going to see if that plays into, any effect going forward here or not. I think it can add another level of intrigue. I think in a lot of ways, the language barrier that comes into play, may or may not, determine the outcome. I mean, it did the first time that he fought his brother, the Crazy Hawaiian. And I think kind of if Dane wants to be victorious, I think he has to play a bit of mind games. You want to be able to get Dumpling off his game. You want to get under his skin and be able to ensure that you can get him off his game, potentially bait him into a foul, which may not be the easiest thing to do, and/or, try and confuse him with where the strike is coming from, changing the count, and/or changing the hands that you're striking with as well. So I can see Dane doing that. I mean, on the flip side, Dumpling, the champion, I mean, status quo. I mean, he's got to continue to do what he's done. He definitely has to remain clean, free of fouls in this particular match. We know the Hawaiians are built with incredibly wide structure. They've got very, very thick necks. And I think the precision and trying to find the button on Dane Viernes, which is not going to be easy, is one of the things that Dumpling, I think, is really going to have to try to focus on. I mean, the strike against Camille was, one of those, I don't want to say it's one of those once in a lifetime or once in a career strikes, but he needs to be able to duplicate that and be able to find that same button that he did on Camille to, put Dane away. I mean, I think if this goes into, a decision, I think we could very much see also something very similar to the last event against, the Crazy Hawaiian, but I think he has to keep it clean. I think he has to, continue. We know his chin and his defense is incredible, and really just work on that offensive side. Can he get it out of the hands of the judges? Can he take care of Dane and, put him away? We haven't seen him go down yet, but the keys to victory for him are going to be keep it clean, continue to work on evolving that offense, trying to get back to what he did with, Camille, because we see in the Crazy Hawaiian both matches, he didn't have the same, lateral rotation, the same smoothness to his strike, that we've seen in previous matches and even before, coming into Power Slap. And so I don't know if he's increased his weight and lost some of his mobility. Has he stopped kind of training some of that flexibility that allows him to get some of that lateral movement? I mean, anytime it goes to the judges' hands, it's never a good thing. You don't want to see or leave the match up to the judges. But we do know that Dumpling, being a veteran that he is now, and of course, Dana White's favorite striker, not saying that plays into, the judge's decision, but I think he's got to try to increase the offensive side a little bit more, refine that grip, and take care of business. So, I mean, I'm excited for this one. Obviously, there's a couple other athletes. You could have seen, Kalani could have been in line for this, I think, as well, making his kind of comeback. In the division, Mikini Manu, a guy with a great record as well, could have been up for a title shot. But ultimately, we see they decided to go with Dane Viernes. What do you think was the difference and why he decided, or Frank, Erica, etc., decided to go with Dane over guys like Kalani, McKinney, Manu? What do you think, Ding?
I think Kalani's a tough one, right? Because Kalani was gone, obviously loses to the Crazy Hawaiian, comes back, goes against Slab Dog. And I mean, has a great performance, but I don't know. I don't know like what his future looks like in this sport because he was gone for so long. Obviously he incurred some tragedy. I know his fiance, I believe, pardon me if I messed that up, but I believe she's his fiance, is pregnant. So I think he's probably got a lot going on. I honestly think that in good faith, this was probably conversated with him about it. And I think he probably just didn't think it was the right time or something else was going on in his life that would, ultimately not allow him to take a match like this at this time. You said Mikini Manu. He's another tough one we talked about. I think, obviously this conversation kind of started when Danny Van Heerden got the title shot coming off of a loss to McKinney back in Power Slap 8 in June of last year. I think in his case, it's probably the name of the opponents, right? Obviously, you get a win over a guy like Stephen Rousey in impressive fashion, but the problem is that Stephen Rousey is a newcomer. And so I think, but you could also make the same argument for the Hawaiian Hitman in that he beat Dennis, who's a newcomer also. The difference in their combat background might have something to do with it, right? Stephen Rousey came from football. Dennis Vildanov is a pretty credentialed, combat sports guy. So that may have something to do with it. But I also think, above and beyond all of that, the arc, the story, the like I said, the investment, you get the opportunity to avenge your countryman in Dennis and a guy that you fought before, somebody you shared, combat sports time with. And on the flip side, the Hawaiian Hitman gets the opportunity to avenge his brother, the Crazy Hawaiian, who, obviously is never going to be at super heavyweight again, all things considered.
Yeah. I mean, this question here from William, I appreciate you saying it, my man. Appreciate all the support that you do every time you watch. Records seem not to matter in Power Slap much, or Dwayne Crespo, someone who obviously we didn't talk about momentarily. Would that be a good fight? Ding, do you want to take this one?
It's interesting because Dwayne has a win over the Hawaiian Hitman. I think it's probably a performance problem. I think it's the difference between guys who fight to decisions and guys who get knockouts. I think, the explosiveness at super the whole point of having a super heavyweight division in my head, and I could be completely off, and I by no means am I arrogant to think that I'm speaking for the promotion. So please take this with a grain of salt that it's my own personal opinion, but the whole point of super heavyweight is because you would think bigger guys, more knockouts, more explosion, bigger shots. So if that's not happening, I just don't think that aligns with the intention. I think it's the same reason why, 55 wasn't a hurry to get involved in. The smaller you are, the less likely you get those knockouts. And if you need proof of that, look no further than, the women's divisions. Mm-hmm. There's just not a lot of knockouts. In women's MMA at 125, there's knockouts. In women's MMA at 115, there's knockouts.
Yeah.
In slap, it just hasn't been the case. That's not saying that women can't do it or it's not possible. It just hasn't happened to this point is what I'm saying. And so I think that's probably the problem is that in the super heavyweight division, Dwayne's only performance was a decision, and on the flip side, Dane, his performances are, if it's a win, he knocks him out every time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, I think we've seen this, and obviously Dorian Perez knows this very well, also, and the followers of Slap News are incredibly smart, kind of leading into this as well. Like, the story matters. Can they sell? Is it going to be entertaining? What's the following? The complete package honestly matters in regards to making these fights happen. And you're 100% right. The narrative has to make sense. They have to be able to sell it to the fan base. And we've seen obviously the Hawaiians be able to support, the Crazy Hawaiian. They're going to back Dane here as well. And, and whether athletes like it or not, and it may rub people the wrong way, and it's no disrespect, to Dwayne Crespo or, even Dorian Perez per se, but obviously these guys know that they need to be able to show up, show out, put on that personality, and be able to represent and get people to rally behind them. Because whether you like it or not, social media numbers matter, views matter. They want that virality. They want that knockout. They don't want you fighting to a decision, even though it's incredibly smart. I mean, Dwayne Crespo, one of the most winning fighters in Power Slap, has done it very strategically, very smart. He gets the checks. He gets the win. He gets the bonus, or the win bonus. So he's taking home 2 checks. But is it going to be enough to get you over that hump? And we are seeing the precedent set. I mean, starting off with Danny Van Heerden getting the title shot against the Crazy Hawaiian over McKinney Manu. Now we're seeing Dane once again getting that shot over a guy, like you said, Dwayne Crespo. And so we're seeing it continue, here, and, for better or for worse, that is what we're seeing. And I think the athletes, don't be discouraged by saying it. I'm just saying what I see. I'm not speaking for the organization either, as Ding alluded to earlier, but just kind of what I see, really building up your stock, trying to find that angle, trying to sell it, and, be that true professional that you can be. And, the cards will fall where they fall. And as long as you do everything that you can to prepare for that moment, that opportunity, that's all you can really do here in Power Slap. So,
yeah, and I got to be honest, they do this in the UFC also. There's plenty of guys who are very, skilled. A guy that comes to mind recently is Bilal Muhammad. I mean, he was an incredible fighter. He is an incredible fighter, had a great, winning record, and they took him, they made him wait, 12 fights to get to a title shot, gets a title shot, wins in the same fashion he wins every other fight, decision. Then he goes out there and they put him up against a guy who's a boxer and he loses. Like, it's just, they tried everything to get somebody more exciting up there. It didn't work out. So then they found somebody who was going to be able to dethrone this guy, because it's just, the story matters. And I think that's the case also in Power Slap.
For sure. I mean, I think we see it, to a lot of extents. I mean, if you just look at UFC that was in Montreal this past weekend, I mean, that's a fight you don't see in Las Vegas. You don't see that fight in New York, so that you get relegated to, as much as I love Montreal, no disrespect to anybody who's watching Montreal. I know Head Rush came on board and they're from Montreal, but let's be honest, Montreal isn't an A-tier, sports town in the worldwide landscape. And it's also the reason why, guys like, Charles Olivier, or Oliveira doesn't get he's getting the opportunity during International Fight Week, the night after Power Slap 13, to once again be up there. People can debate the merit of that's the best fight for, the UFC in this moment. I think a lot of people would argue that it isn't, but we do know that Charles is a fan favorite. People love him. The entire country of Brazil gets behind him. I mean, I don't know the population of Brazil, Ding, maybe you can pull it up, but I'm pretty sure it's probably, equal to or greater than the entire population of the United States. And we know that country and that, that fan base means a lot to the UFC, and they do a lot to appease. And so I think, Charles is getting one of those, quote unquote, I don't say favors, but he's getting one of those, benefit of the doubt to be able to go for a title run once again.
Just north of 200 million there, Corey.
All right. What's the US?
US, I think, is 300 something.
300. Okay, so not quite as big, but definitely still pretty big.
40
so,
million.
Yeah, absolutely. So,
So
yeah.
Let's catch up to these comments though before we move into the next one. There was one that I saw that was pretty crazy. So Fap, I mean, Brandon Bordeaux seemed to have sort of popped this bubble, but yeah, I can confirm that those are not the prelim fights. I'm assuming the champions were just moving some names around and having some fun. So I would not get your hopes up on that. Dwayne Crespo would like to shout out your slap fighting IQ, Corey.
Awesome. What's up, Dwayne? Appreciate that.
Everybody likes Mark Smith, it seems. We actually have some good information coming out from Mark Smith probably next week that I think you guys will actually be really happy and surprised to hear or to find out. Brendan Bordeaux knows it. Unfortunately, I'm not willing to tease it because I think it's really, really cool stuff. But look out for that. Mark Smith is a great guy, both on and off stage.
Where are they going to be able to see that?
That'll be on our Instagram.
And how do you see it first?
How do you see it first? You go to our Instagram page. Well, first you got to go to Insiders.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're not in Insiders already, make sure you go on our page. There's a small, it's right below our bio. Let me just pull it up here so I can see what that icon is. The icon looks like a message icon that says Slap News Insiders, 238 members. You click on that. get in there, hit join, and you're essentially in a group chat that nobody else can reply to. We can just put in things. Like Corey said, we don't spam you in there, so definitely get in insiders to find out first. But really, really cool information coming from Mark Smith to be featured probably next week.
Absolutely.
Let's see what else we missed here. Oh, Alex Asbury. I didn't even know you watched us, man. Well, welcome and thank you. PS13 looking insane. I agree. First time we've ever had 4 title matches. I'd love to see Alex Asbury back at the table. Ditto. I have no objections there. Corey, how are the Leafs looking?
I'm not sure what the score is. I think they were down 3-0 or something last update I heard. So I don't think they're looking too good. They were up in the series 2-0. They went and Florida tied it up 2-2. And it looks like the Leafs are down. What's the score, producer Ray D? 6-0 for Florida. So the Leafs are not doing good right now. 6-0. It's almost like I don't know. It's almost like a Cleveland Browns versus the Ravens or something going on here in the snow in December.
Yeah, this is what happens when Canada goes against the U.S., man, every time.
Yeah.
All right, let's see. This is a long one. Fighters like Wesley Drain have 10+ fights, while some of us only have 3 to 4 fights. And I'm sure I have plenty of followers and fans who would love to see me and a few other guys back, like Joe Scott and a few LG fighters. What I will say is, Alex, number one, I don't know why you haven't been brought back. I'll say that just right off the bat. Haven't heard anything. I'm not sure. That seems to be something between you and the organization. What I will say about Joe Scott is he is not always so interested in being a part of this as much as they are probably interested in him being a part of this. And what I mean by that is just he's got other stuff going on, a pretty successful life outside of Power Slap that he enjoys. And so if it isn't really worth it to him for what he's looking for, then Joe Scott's not going to come to the table. And I think he's unique in that way. He's kind of playing this game to the beat of his own drum. And that's very, very rare in the current atmosphere of the sport. But I totally hear what you're saying. I respect it. And unfortunately, I wish I had some information for you. I don't. Corey, I'm assuming doesn't either because we haven't ever talked about it. But if you still are under contract, I would love to know why you have not been brought back. So if for whatever crazy reason it's a full moon and Frank or Erica's watching this, maybe give Alex Asbury a call.
Yeah, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe, Alex has fought Waylon Frost and Andrew Provost. So he beat Waylon Frost, who is currently, I believe, number 6, and he beat Andrew Provost, who I believe is number 7 in the rankings. And the second matchup against Provost was ruled a no contest. So as of right now, Ashbury is 1-0-1.
It was ruled a no contest. Why? A suspension?
Yeah, it was a suspension for.
That would probably explain why you're not back.
No, but not for Alex, for Andrew Provost.
Really?
Yeah, he was suspended for a year. So
interesting.
Yeah, he was suspended for a year.
But he competed after that suspension, right? Provost came back.
Did he come back out? Maybe he did. Yes, I think his last fight he did come back for. So
I don't know, man. Try taking him out to dinner or something. That's an interesting one. That's an interesting one. All right, here. It's the beautiful one.
Here's the thing. Asbury actually had the whole DJ thing going on. They tried to do that with LT Gray, coming up against, Roberts. So he kind of had a bit of that story kind of going for himself as well. Alex is where? Atlanta or is he Florida? I think he's somewhere in the South or one of the Carolinas. Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure. I mean, he has a very tall, I think what's he 6'2", 6'3"-ish, 6'4" maybe. Yeah. So,
but if he look, I mean, the truth is, if he's still under contract, then that's good news because people have been cut. So, you may just kind of be that guy that's not top of mind. I would just casually reach out, be respectful. Do not take to social media and start shitting on the organization. That's all I can say. This is a great question, though, man. Great topic we talked about. I saw wrestling news sites say we about to have WWE fighters in Power Slap season 4. I'll start by saying pump the brakes, and then I'll say, Corey, you got anything you want to talk about here?
Yeah. I can't say too much about that. I say I wouldn't take what are in those articles, to be the gospel. I think there's a lot of stuff there that's been exaggerated in that particular instance. I think it's, fairly safe to say publicly that, pro wrestlers, had been brought in for a training camp That's really all that I can say at this particular point. I think anything else in those articles is unwarranted or unfound. The fact to say that they're WWE fighters, I think, is a bit of a stretch. But I think you will see pro indie wrestlers there for sure, obviously, and how or what, in what capacity those strikers end up coming into Power Slap, I think is very much still up in the air. We may see them on prelim fights. We may see them on, potential season road to the title seasons, or maybe we see it in a totally different way. I think at this particular time, I don't think anybody particularly knows that. And I think a lot of the, quote unquote, facts of those articles and the way that they were written, might not be the entire truth in the way that we see it come out. So time will tell, but I wouldn't read too much into it, to be quite honest.
Yeah, I definitely wouldn't hold your breath because you will probably pass out.
Yeah. We got up to date on the comments?
Almost, very close. Let me just see this. How about the Knicks? I don't know anything about that. I apologize. Power Slap 1 and 5 had 4 title fights. Is that facts? 1, sure. Yes. 5? I don't know about that.
5 was
the introduction of the super heavyweight championship, I think.
That was
because Hawaiian made his debut at 3. So 5 was when he fought Kalani. 4 title matches at 5. I don't know about that. But 1, I mean, yeah, that makes sense. But I mean, I don't know if I can confirm that.
No, correct. Yeah, because that was the debut of Super Heavy. So you had John Davis and you had Azael on there.
You did have 4 title matches.
Yeah.
Wow, Fap, you got me, man.
Ron Bay, Austin Turpin, Damien DeBell, Nate Bernard. And then we finished off with the debut of the Super Heavyweights, the Crazy
Hawaiian. I forgot
Hawaiian.
about 1, but yeah, 5. Wow, man.
So we're 1, 5, and 13.
I fucked that up. You guys can trash me in the comments all you want. That's rough. Okay, I apologize.
Yeah.
Tracy versus Asbury. Hey, I like it. He fought Slap Jesus also. Alex did. Oh, here we go. A great question.
Slap Jesus. I love hearing that name every time, man.
Is your boy.
100%. Slap News. Throw him any kind of party for PS13. Absolutely, Brandon Bordeaux. You can be assured that Slap News once again will be an integral part of International Fight Week, the Power Slap Week leading into it. We are planning to be doing our, signature now, I guess, tailgate party that we'll be doing at Circa and Stadium Swim. So you'll be able to attend that, mingle. And of course, we're not just going to roll back what we did last time. We're going to find ways to improve upon what we did, make it even bigger and better and more value for people to come out. So if you were in Las Vegas, tentatively circle it in your calendars the Thursday. I believe it's June 26th. Circa Sports. You're going to want to come out to Stadium Swim. It's going to be the place you want to be. We have, you typically 30 plus strikers there in attendance, celebrities and some fun, exciting things for everybody to be had. As well, we're working on another event that we can't quite speak about yet, but look out for 2 potential events coming from Slap News. 2 distinct events that I think you guys will be incredibly excited about. I'll just tease you with something. It may involve some stuff like this, but stay tuned with that. If you are planning to get to Vegas, I mean, there's a ton going on International Fight Week. We know there's obviously everything from grappling to the UFC to the Hall of Fame. So get there early. I will say that if you can get into Las Vegas that Monday, Tuesday, you're not going to be disappointed with the amount of events that kind of roll around it. And we're working on an event, wink, wink around things like this. So
hold on, I got to call an audible here. Are those Gemmint 10 PSA graded Power Slap promo cards?
They are, my man. I have the trifecta. I've got the trifecta, actually. So I don't know if the camera's going to pick this up in focus or not. But
well, that appears to be Dana White.
So we got Dana White, PSA 10. We've got Anthony Blackburn, PSA 10. These are the promo cards you had to be at the event to get itself. You couldn't get these from the boxes.
Yeah, fun
And
fact about that is that actually is not the photo they used in his actual card.
for sure. And then there's a Paige Vanzant, PSA 10. So I'm pretty sure the pop count on these incredibly low. We know they only printed roughly 300 of these promo cards, and so to be able to get a couple of them in pristine condition, incredibly excited, my man. I got these back in the mail bag today. They came in. I did have to pay tariffs as part of the tariff war between Canada and the U.S., but was able to get them in, add them to my collection. Incredibly excited to have these promo cards.
What about that power side belt back there? Is that a Gem Man 10?
I mean, it's authenticated, my dude.
Okay. All right.
It's got the blood, sweat, and tears of the athlete that kept it.
Yeah. I was gonna say, yeah, you ain't gonna do that.
So couldn't be in a better home, my man. That's all I'll say. So let's turn it over to one of the fights that you brought up as being potentially one of these legendary fights that could go down. This could steal the show. Anthony Babyface Blackburn defending his welterweight championship belt against the newcomer to the division, the welterweight, Azael Rodriguez. This matchup is going to be dog versus dog. It's going to be one of those matchups you don't want to blink. It can go, I think, many ways, but we've known for a while, and I believe Azael is known for a while now, better part of 6 to 8 months, that he was going to make this move down. And we're going to dive into how do we get here, Ding? And why does Azael coming into the division, getting an immediate shot at the title, Anthony Blackburn, make sense?
You know what? I think, Azael, obviously a guy that challenged for the middleweight championship twice, has had incredible performances. If a guy named John Davis did not exist, of course he actually did exist, or does exist. But if a guy named John Davis did not exist, Azael Rodriguez would be the middleweight champion. And so I think as he decided that he no longer wanted to compete at middleweight after the defeat of Eddie Brahimir back in October in Abu Dhabi, he moves down to 170. He makes that announcement. The way that was handled was a bit interesting. I think it was a first in its own right, in that, he skyrockets to the top of the division, gets placed at number 2 in the rankings right off the bat without actually having competed. And so the question then became, well, who's next, right? Manny was sitting at number 1. Those guys have history as well at middleweight. And so Anthony Blackburn's been kind of waiting since he defeated Manny for the second time. Obviously, that wasn't for a title due to the weight miss, but back in December at Power Stop 10, Azael comes in at number 2 of the rankings. The question is, what's going to happen here? And like I said, when we made our top 5 matches that need to happen this year back in January, that was one of the matches that was on it. And the reason why was because this has all been building this entire time. Take care of business with Manny. I'm going to come down to 170 and we'll go at it. And we'll figure out who's the best welterweight in the world. And so I think ultimately that star power, the total domination that he had. I mean, in the promo that we cooked up, they say an incredible quote. He's the most successful slap fighter to never win a championship. A lot of people probably missed that part, and that was said by, I believe, either Michael Bisping or Dan Haley. It was a broadcast quote. And so I think that's absolutely true. He's, at this point in time, that was said, however long ago, probably, in preparation for his second title fight at Power Slap 5. But it remains true. He is probably, one of the more successful strikers to never win a championship. And so June 27th, he sets out to try to change that.
Yeah. I mean, fast forward back to the summer of last year where, Azael lost 2 consecutive matches to John Davis. John Davis had a reign, the top of the middleweight division for an incredibly long time. I think this made sense. Since then, we had, Isaiah Quiones come in as the champion. Now we've got Brandon Bordeaux as that champion. In some ways it might have been a little premature, because I think Brandon Bordeaux at the top of this particular division gives Azael that opportunity, potentially at middle, to go up. I mean, we wouldn't have seen, obviously, a third trilogy with John. Wouldn't have made sense. Kind of that change at the guard could give you reason that you could stay there. Obviously, taking out a guy like Eddie Brahimir, who's, a tough guy, both on the offense and the defensive side. We've seen him put his skill set, in full display in Abu Dhabi. But, I think this decision was made a long time ago. The question is going to be, Ding, is Azael's chin and is his power going to hold up with going down to 170? Where do you kind of sit on the side of that?
Absolutely, I think it will. I think Azael has had enough time to make the adjustment. I think that this has been something that he's been working on for quite some time, probably since he stepped off the stage October 24th back at Power Slap 9 in Abu Dhabi. When we saw him at Power Slap, I believe it was Power Slap 10 in Vegas, he looked great. Power Slap 12, we saw him, I know for sure. So if it wasn't at 10 or 12, forgive me if I'm missing one of those, but he looked great. He was talking about his abs. Right? He didn't want to show, too much, but I mean, he looked like he was in great shape. He was, right around that weight that he needed to be to go ahead and make that championship weight. And so I think ultimately, when you've given yourself enough time to just drop. I mean, we're not talking an astronomical, amount of weight. We're talking 15 pounds. I think that he'll be able to sort of maintain those things because while cutting weight, he's also been, maintaining that muscle. And so I think that his skill set will transfer well into that new division.
Yeah, I hear you. I mean, on the flip side, Anthony Babyface Blackburn, what I thought was the best quote from that hype video. If you haven't seen it, head over to either YouTube or Instagram. Check out the hype video that we did for this particular match. I believe you dropped it on Saturday or Sunday. I think one of the best pieces that we've put out here on the socials in 2025. Anthony Blackburn has done nothing but win since he's come into Power Slap. Right up Power Slap #1. He got asked, who do you want to go up against? I mean, a guy wasn't even in his weight class, he decided to, he said that he wanted to fight Azael Rodriguez. And so, I mean, this has kind of been one of those things that have been in the works for 2+ years. Obviously back then he wanted to slap Azael for different reasons. I think obviously Azael has been able to change his reputation, prove that he's, one of the hardest working guys on the roster. He's doing everything right to be deserving of this opportunity and his moment. But also on the flip side, Anthony Blackburn sitting here right now, 5-0-1, 5 victories, 1 no contest to Cole Young. And he's done nothing but win, coming off consecutive victories over Emmanuel Muniz, who came down, remember, from middleweight down to the welterweight division. And he was able to win both of those matches by, split decision over Emmanuel Muniz. So this is there's nothing new for Anthony Blackburn to see guys coming down to the division. Azael is the next guy on that, on the totem pole that's going to challenge him for his belt. And in many ways, I think Azael possesses different challenges compared to Emmanuel Muniz. I think Azael has this, zombie-like kind of mentality and attitude. I know you talked about a lot, Ding. We see him get hit, kind of collect himself even before he even falls and hits the mat. He just has this consistency to him and this, want, will, desire, and drive to be able to be a world champion. We see him, move from the Caribbean back to San Diego, take his life a lot more serious, a lot more regiment, getting on proper dieting and everything else, obviously, to make this particular cut. But Anthony Blackburn, every time that you think you can sleep on Anthony, it's one of those times that you don't. I mean, him going up against KO Chris Thomas, with Chris's resume, I think a lot of people slept on him there. I think people thought Emmanuel Muniz was going to give him, run for his money, and rightfully so. I mean, they were both split decisions, so it's not like it was decisive wins, but he was able to, come out victorious. The first one you've seen, Anthony, point over to Manny that he was going to be the title, and then his name got announced. So it wasn't, clear for anybody. But, Anthony continues to rack up the victories. He has a bit of an unorthodox style of how he prepares for, matches, but he's put himself in a position to once again, be that champion, come in. I think the Vegas line on this one's going to open up, I think, a pick 'em, to be quite honest with you. Maybe the champ will have a slight edge in this particular one, but I think all the way through, I think this is going to be a really close match on the betting lines going into the match. And really, I mean, it's one that I wouldn't be putting my money on because I think I could see paths for both of these athletes to, to be victorious. It's going to go in the championship rounds. I think I misspoke earlier, but, Azael has gone into the championship rounds as well against John Davis. So both of these athletes have been tested into those championship rounds, and we're going to see who is able to put away, their opponent in particular fashion, or is going to go to the judge decision, which may be likely, but we do know that Azael obviously continues to get better round after round. And I think that fight against Eddie Brahima, you've seen him, start slower round one, a little less power, add add more power to his second strike and then to his third strike. So we're going to see how this one unfolds. But the champion obviously gets the benefit of the doubt. If it does go to the judges' decisions, the champ usually has, a little bit extra in the tank, and you have to, dethrone the champion in unanimous fashion, a lot of times. So we'll see as this particular one unfolds. What's the chat saying about this one? I'm sure the astute, well-educated followers here and fans of Slap News probably have some things to say about this particular matchup.
Yeah, Wesley Drains got Azael in the fourth. Alex says he's seen Azael come back from loss and put guys to sleep. Logan Greenhall seems to have just got here. And as of right now, that seems to be all the comments on that.
All right. I mean, this one's going to be a barn burner, man. I mean, 4 title matches to fill out this main card is, definitely something that we are all excited and looking forward to. We're going to do something a little bit different right now. We're going to get in. We've got Corey and Ding's top 3. We teased it at the beginning of the show, a new segment that we're incredibly excited to reveal for you guys. So this week's top 3 is going to be what were they thinking moments. And so these are moments that both Ding and I look back and think, what were they thinking about when they did these particular acts in Power Slap? Do you want me to start out, Ding, with mine? Yeah, you want me to start? All right. So 3 of my moments come to mind. I'm going to start out with one that I thought was a very interesting and robust one. And that was one of Mr. Austin Turpin and his match with Brian Dozier. I'm going to play it here for you guys. I remember watching this back for the first time and thinking, what was Austin thinking? The hawk in the hand, going up to slap Brian Dozier. What was going through his mind that he thought Mark Smith wouldn't stop him? And Mark, delivered, I think, one of the best quotes ever. And the funny thing is he didn't actually make him actually wipe it off. He just wiped it on his shirt and gets back up there for the strike. Brian, obviously calling out for Austin, saying you're only going to get one. And we've seen Austin, take care of business in fashion. I believe it was his Power Slap 2, I think.
Wow. Yeah, I don't know about that, Corey. I mean, I'm surprised that Brian didn't say something to the ref, to be quite honest with you. Like, hey man, make him rub that shit off his hand. You're not slapping me. I thought. I will say I have done that in real life when I was an adolescent and an adolescent and a delinquent. I absolutely have. I licked my hand and slapped somebody over a girl. So I will say I understand the intent behind it. Brian Dozier, I'm not standing there and just allowing someone to do that and then touch my face. No shot.
Interesting. So how did the outcome come? I mean, Dan, you slapped somebody. Did you win the fight or what?
He didn't want to fight, so I went like this.
Yeah.
And he was pretending that he was on the phone, walking with the girl that we were kind of having an issue over. And I swung and I slapped him, boom, right on the side of the ear from behind. And his hat flew off, his phone fell out of his hand, and the girl yelled, "Michael!" and then grabbed him, and he grabbed his shit, and they took off. And I was like, all right, well, if you don't want to fight, I'm not going to be aggressive about it, but said something disrespectful, so I slapped him. But yeah, so I understand the intent behind it all, but I'm not standing there while I just watched you, hawk to your hand, and it's just not going to happen. I'm surprised Brian Dozier didn't say a word. He gets a 10 out of 10 for composure. He gets a 0 out of 10 for heart.
That's awesome, man. What's your first one?
My first one is actually Andrew Fields when he did the illegal windup against Anthony Blackburn. He calls 3 and then hits him on 2. And I don't think this was actually the first time that we saw an illegal windup. I believe we saw one before, but this just came out of nowhere. So he hits him on 2. Blackburn eats it like a champ. I mean, it hurts him a little bit because he wasn't prepared, but all things considered, he eats it, and Fields is just like kind of lost. And at that point, I think I was surprised to see that kind of mistake being made. Shout out to Andrew Fields. Obviously, he's not making mistakes like that today. In fact, he's doing quite well in this game. But nonetheless, I'm just curious in that moment what happens because that wasn't in round one, so it wasn't jitters. He didn't get hurt or anything, so I don't know what was going on in that moment that created that block where he said 2-3 and then come and decides to hit him on two. But it'll forever go down in history alongside Luke Simons. And there's one more FAP. If you're in chat, help me out, my man. I don't remember who the third person is.
Yeah, you have to give it to the refs. I mean, at how fast those windups happen, and to be able to catch that and make the right call. And it was funny just kind of how nonchalantly he called the foul, and Kerry Hatley, and didn't really get upset about it or anything else. Just kind of went with it. -1 point. Let's go on to another round. And so it's kind of interesting to see that. So, and that's Ding's number 3.
That was my first one. So what's your second one?
My second one. I hate to say it. I'm going to go to Texas. I'm going to hurt some feelings with this one. I know it's going to happen because I know this model superstar, Kryptonian-like fellow can be a little sensitive at times. But I'm going to go back to his matchup, Alan Klingbeil versus Vernon Cathy. And this is the first time that we've seen someone really deviate from your standard strike that you see today, the long wind up, full extension strike. We see Alan come in here with a very unique, very short, straight strike on one Vernon Cathy.
That's interesting. So that's a lot slower than we know it to be today.
Absolutely. I remember sitting there and, your favorite person, Big G's, was beside me, and we're thinking like, what is he doing? You kill a lot of your momentum that you have with your strike. He tried to catch, and I understand the reason. He tried to catch Vern off kilter with that strike. He tried to catch the timing off of it, to try to catch Vern not fully clinched. But I'm not sure it was the best, still to this day, the best or the most effective strike that Alan could have delivered. We've seen him change that strategy since that particular fight. And, Alan's had a career, obviously light heavyweight, and, one of those guys that are still kicking around the sport. But in that moment, I was like, Alan, what are you thinking? You get the first strike. And I thought you robbed yourself of some of that extra power you could have earned, Cathy.
Logan Greenholm, man, this guy's funny. We gotta get his personality out here more. But he says Alan couldn't hit water if he fell out of a boat.
What do you mean? I think Alan's been a good soldier, man, in power slap.
Well, keep in mind, Logan's at 205 pounds now, so I think that's probably the motivation behind that. Needs to get a proper mouthpiece.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I think anyone who beats Vern Cathy in the light heavyweight division is, a good contender. We talk about Vern being in the top of the elite at the light heavyweight division. Last time we see Alan Klingbeil was against Luke Simon, a guy who's, a star in the division, guy that's rising up, guy that we, think and believe is, destined to get a big break here sometime in the future. And he's done nothing but win since coming in. So we'll see how that goes. I mean, Alan lost to Austin, lost to Luke Simon. So, I mean, two guys that are, right at the top of the division, ready to prime. And, I think we still got some more to go. Where's Greenhall sitting in that light heavyweight division now? What's his rank?
Logan Greenhall is in the light heavyweight division.
7. Okay, so Alan's 6. He's 7.
Yeah, could be something.
I get behind those guys squaring off. I could 100%. I mean, we look at it and we see Alan with a loss. So you might not get the fight up in the ranks. So I could see that. Logan Greenhall sitting at 2-2-1. I think it makes sense. 6 and 7 square off. I mean, with what we're seeing with Power Slap right now, that with 4 title fights, it's hard to get on a card, and definitely not a taped one. I like it. Get behind that.
Yeah, I mean, with 4 title fights at the top of this one, what do the prelims look like?
100%.
That'll be the question. All right, let's keep rolling here. So my second one, I'll be impressed if we got footage of this because this is probably incredibly hard to find.
Yeah, dude. I don't. Unfortunately, I love the follow the Slap News, but I don't have 3.5 days to watch back season 3.
Yeah,
To get you this one.
No idea. But Blake, it's funny. Blake Howard was in here. I don't know if he's still in here, but my second, what were they thinking moment is Riley Montoya putting Blake Howard's dentures in his mouth. I don't know what the heck he was thinking. That's incredibly weird. I believe Blake is either a smoker or a dipper. So that makes it a little worse. Nothing against Blake, of course. But I remember Hercules, Josh Newsom, and it might have been Brendan Kerr. I don't remember who the second person was, but they looked at Riley and they were like, "Oh, you're fucking nasty." I was like, why would he do that? Like, I understand the nomad thing.
Yeah.
But like, why would you put his dentures in your mouth? That's disgusting. Shout out to Blake Howard though, man. Not saying that your dentures are dirty or anything.
How much would someone have to pay you to put Blake Howard dentures in your mouth?
$50,000.
50,000?
Yeah, it's just dentures, bro. Like it's not like you're telling me to lick somebody's tip or something. I mean, $50K to put somebody's fucking teeth in your mouth for a second is that's light. I've done worse than that for less, but
have you now? Do you care to share?
Yeah, I'll tell you a story. So when I was in the military, days off in the military are very unusual. It's kind of like it's a free for all. You do whatever, you can get away with anything because there's no like payroll and all that shit is handled by somebody you never see or hear of. It's like this entity that's separate. So nobody makes it a big deal. So they give you days off all the time. There's no PTO or anything you got to worry about. So my boss comes in and he says, my boss comes in and he says, I'll give a day off to anybody who puts this thermometer in their mouth. And it was a rectal thermometer that we use out, out and about. So my thinking was, okay, these thermometers have a cover that are used to, coat them before you shove them in somebody's ass.
Mm-hmm.
And, I'm thinking like operation, all I got to do is get this thing, touch the back of my throat, show that there's saliva on it, and I get a day off. So that's what I did. I didn't touch anything. I put it to the back of my throat, touched the very back, made like one of those kind of noises, and it had saliva on it. And he's like, no, you got it, whatever. But then it was, sorry, man. Like you said, put it in your mouth. I did. I got the day off. He's like, okay, no problem. Then he does it again. And this guy, Troy Pittman, who's still in the fucking Navy, shout out to HM1 Pittman, you disgusting fuck. He says he revises the rules for his own satisfaction. And he says, no, you actually got to put it in your mouth. He goes, for a day off, I don't give a fuck. And he basically brushes his teeth with the thing, like puts it in his mouth and just closes it and just starts going all around. And then I was like blown away. I couldn't believe that he fucking did that. So that's crazy. That's the craziest thing I've ever done for a day off.
Do we know if it was used before or?
Well, we can safely assume it was used before. Whether or not it was used with a probe cover, not with a probe cover, I don't fucking know. I don't want to know. It tasted like metal, so I will say that.
Okay. Tasted like metal. Interesting story, my man. Appreciate you sharing that, Ding. I'm sure the people of Slap News will never look at you the same, but it's all good.
Demeaning myself for their satisfaction. It's what we do.
It is all good. All right, my number 3 moment. What were they thinking? Gonna go back all the way to Power Slap number 1. And this is a accumulation over 2 rounds, something I don't think we'll ever see again in Power Slap. I'm not sure if we could even, begin to fathom, but we'll count it. All right. Mr. 1 Reese Archer, Power Slap number 1 against Travis Aragon. And this is one of these moments that I couldn't believe. So Reese Archer striking first, Power Slap number 1, not wearing the shoes, coming in with the left, commits, a stepping foul in round 1
That was
against
more like a
Travis.
jumping foul.
Well, when you watch it back, it's pretty
Jesus
crazy. Yeah.
Christ. Yeah, look, so he moves his feet after he's set. Holy shit. Squats and then just fucking launches it. Holy smokes. I don't want to hear anybody talking about power slap.
Dude, it gets even better though, man. Like it
Not
honestly
today. Holy
gets
shit.
even better. Like that's just part of it. So if any of you haven't seen this match, I suggest going back to watch it because it's legendary. But we'll keep going here, okay? So keep in mind you just committed a foul in round 1, and now it's your turn to receive a strike in round 2, and you get a commercial on YouTube. Anticlimactic, isn't it? So then we get a flinch from one researcher. I'm sure some of the OGs, Dwayne Crespo, knows what I'm talking about here. We get a flinch in round 1. So Travis is going to get another opportunity. So just keep in mind at this particular point.
Wow, that was egregious.
Yeah, definitely missed the timing on that roll for sure. Second time around.
Another one.
Happens.
That's like the Matrix. He doesn't know what to say though. He's looking at Kerry Hadley. He's like,
so he gets minus a point. So right here off the bat, 10-7 round to start.
Yeah, not doing well. I can tell you that.
And all I can say is it gets better, Ding. It gets even better as we progress here. So, you have to love the confidence.
A lot left on the table with Donovan Cross there in the corner.
What's that?
A lot left on the table with Donovan Cross there in the corner.
Yeah. So we wrote round 2. And what do we get again? What do we
What
get?
is he looking at? Like, it's almost like he doesn't believe it. Like he doesn't know that he jumped.
There we go.
That one was less bad, but it was still bad.
So we get a stepping foul.
I will say Travis looks incredibly damaged.
So we got minus 3 points. Yeah, I mean, he had to get facial reconstruction. So I'm just trying to put this into perspective, okay? So we've got minus 3 points at this particular juncture. We've got 2 flinches. There's your third flinch after just fouling a guy 2 rounds in a row. So this one here is a warning. 3 flinches.
Wait, he gets a warning for that?
Yeah, the first one
different too.
The first one they don't take away a point.
Yeah, but that's the first. That would be the first one of the round.
Correct. So the second round, now you see him come in. The second round, minus 1 point.
Oh no, yeah, he does get him.
Yeah, so the second flinch. So let's recap this. The match is now over. Reese Archer has 2 stepping fouls, 4 flinches, total of 4 minus points, and a disqualification.
Yeah, I don't want to hear everybody say anything about power slap anymore.
I can't wrap my head around that one.
Like, look how far we've come. I mean, 4 flinches today is still end of the fight if it's the whole fight. 3 in the same round is a DQ.
Yeah.
But 2 stepping fouls in itself would have been a DQ, so he wouldn't have had a chance to flinch twice more.
Could you imagine if there was 3 rounds? Could we have got minus 6 points?
That's crazy, man. Good times. How far we've come.
I haven't checked the comments. I'm sure they're probably funny. But
well, James Isham is in here giving you shit for butchering his last name.
Who is?
Said he want James Isham, Anthony Blackburn and Brandon Bordeaux's coach.
Oh, okay, okay.
Completely butchered my last name on the Blackburn interview. All good. Just wanted to give you some shit, Corey.
Oh, good. I usually try not to say it, so I just try to avoid the whole the whole part about it.
So blame it on Blackburn because he didn't say it.
Exactly.
All right, my third and final one is Power Slap number 6, Ryan Phillips versus Nate Bernard. As soon as Ryan gets on stage, he entered second. Nate is already on stage, and Ryan Phillips charges at him like a bull They go head to head, and the referees absolutely freak out because the athletes are touching each other before the match has started. And Chris Dione falls in the middle of the skirmish. And yeah, I don't know what he was thinking doing that. Like you cannot touch the athlete you're about to compete against. And it pissed the refs off, and it pissed security off, and you know, it will probably never happen again because of that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to think back because there was something even funnier happened after that the cameras didn't catch. If you were watching the weigh-ins, and this was before, you know, we implemented a multi-camera system to be able to stream the weigh-ins. But Ryan Phillips, and I remember this clear as day at the Apex, I'm pretty sure it was this moment, comes off the right side of the stage left, audience right. And the way the stage is at the Apex, I'm sure if Ryan sees this in the comments, he'll chime in. But he goes off the step. So they put the step below to kind of break it up. But it's just like a cube or a box that they put on the ground. It's not secured to anything. It's not anchored. And he steps on the side of the step, and he's kind of turning to go behind the actual curtain itself. And that step flips. And Ryan bails right after that particular moment. He was all amped up, getting ready, leaves, boom, and just falls flat on his ass. And I remember him pop up and look and just like such shock that it's like that fight could have never happened potentially if he would have rolled his ankle and got injured coming off the stage. But obviously it did. And yeah, I mean, overall, Ryan Phillips, the guy who's always brought the energy, he's brought the excitement up there. He embodied very early on, you know, the King of King thing. And, you know, it was him. That was his persona. And yeah, it was one of those moments that kind of lives on in infamousy for sure.
Yeah, I just worked some magic here, so I actually can show this.
Did you?
I did.
What part? The headbutting or the Ryan falling?
Headbutting. No, I don't. I wouldn't be able to heal anything for Ryan falling.
Okay.
Let's do this. So he gets on stage and then he just charges at Nick Bernard. They go head to head. Chris Dione freaks out, trips. Security jumps in. Or I think those are actually the catchers. And yeah, not a good idea. not a good idea. Chris Dione gets in his face and tells him to cut the shit. And then Ryan breaks character and winks at him and tells him, "We're good, brother."
That's awesome, man. Good. That's awesome. All right, let's get on with him. Let's get back to Power Slap 13. Wolverine versus Russel Rivero. This matchup here pins, like we said, the out of retirement Ron Wolverine Beta back at it. He's not done. If you're tuning in late and you missed the first part of the show, Wolverine is back. He's going to put his light heavyweight championship belt on the line against Russel Rivero, one of the hardest hitting guys in the light heavyweight division. Russell's been sitting, waiting in the wings. We know the matchup over in Saudi Arabia between Wolverine and Vern Cathy. Russel Rivero was there as a backup in case one of those athletes didn't make weight or something crazy happened. We know he's been waiting in the wing. He's kind of been that next guy in line for a really long time, and now we're getting it as part of International Fight Week. Ding, Russel Rivero, tough as nails. You know, he wants to go up there and take your head off every single strike, whether it's within the rule set or not. You know that Russell's going to get up there and give you 100% of his energy. We know Russell's one of those guys that works out right up until the time he gets on the bus to head to the arena. He always comes in focused and ready to go. We know Wolverine, as you alluded to, the GOAT, the Tom Brady of Power Slap, has more experience than, you know, pretty well anybody in the game at this particular time, continues to reinvent himself, even when you think he's going to run into his toughest competition. You know, guys like Austin Turpin, guys like, you know, Vern Cathy, he finds ways to continue to get through it. You know, the first multi-weight class title holder that we have in Power Slap, and an all-around legend. This match, in some ways, I think is being overshadowed by some of the other matches. I know we're making a big deal of Azael and Blackburn. We haven't spoken on these airways too much about Russell versus Wolverine. I think we're going to be getting into that in the week or so, maybe 10 days ahead. We'll start doing a deeper dive into the analytics of this match and why it makes sense, and some different things there. But then talk to me, the challenger Russel Rivero. Give me some of his backstory that put him in this position to go up for a title.
Well, Russel Rivero coming out of the house in season 1 was kind of the guy. The first time he met the who would become the light heavyweight champion, AJ Static Hints, he suffered devastating knockout. It was the first time we ever saw a guy that looked like that on the wrong side of something like that. I remember, his legs were trembling. It was a pretty bad shot. It definitely didn't look good. Then he goes against Isaiah Quinones, who doesn't have the equity that he's built up over the course of time since that match. He beats Isaiah, knocks him down. Isaiah gets back up, walks to the referee, trips over his own feet, or as Michael Bisping calls it, does the stanky leg. The fight gets waved off. Isaiah Quinones loses. If I'm not mistaken, that would be his last fight at 205 pounds. Then the suspension would come. Then he would return at 185 pounds. So Russel Rivero then gets his shot against AJ Hints for the title, knocks him out cold. Unfortunately, this is where the disqualification comes in. That becomes his second disqualification loss in Power Slap. And then he would be out for just a couple of months, comes back in July of 2023, takes on Bear Bennett, gets the knockout, in the second round. Very, very emphatic fashion. But, again, Bear Bennett, not highly ranked or anything like that. Then from July of 2023, doesn't compete again until April 2024 at Power Slap 7. Gets a win over Cody Belial, also by TKO in the first round. Nothing crazy. I mean, Cody was ranked, I think, towards the end of the top 10, probably number 9 or 10. And we haven't seen him since. So it's been over a year now. He obviously scheduled to go against Austin Turpin in Abu Dhabi, Power Slap 9. And I believe he was originally scheduled also to go against him at Power Slap 11 in Saudi. And both of those things fell through. He shows up to Saudi to be the backup. And then, now he's coming back in June of 2025. So it's been about 14 months since he competed. Before that, it was another 8 or so months. So I think he's been the boogeyman of the division for a long time. Obviously, the situation with AJ was less than ideal, being that he knocked him out, but it becomes a disqualification. And he never had the opportunity to right that wrong. He kind of fought, guys who really didn't have a whole lot of history or equity in the division. And now he's kind of been with these scheduled matchups against Austin Turpin, those falling through twice. They kind of said, after Vern got his opportunity, who else makes sense? And so you find yourself with one Russel Rivero coming up to challenge the returning Wolverine, who's exiting retirement for the light heavyweight championship.
Yeah. I mean, Wolverine has now fought 6 times in Power Slap. 5 of those times, they were championship matches with a record of 4-2. Wolverine has never lost at light heavyweight. The only losses that he's incurred in Power Slap have been at heavy. Power Slap number 2 to the current champ and remaining champ up until this date, Damien DeBell, and then the loss to Austin Turpin at heavyweight as well. Otherwise, light heavy, he is 3-0, beating AJ Static Hints. He beat Turpin at light heavyweight and then beating Vern Cathy. Comes back to this matchup, as we said, as the GOAT, a guy that really has nothing else that he needs to prove in this division, but he's coming back for the pure love of the sport. When he quote unquote retired in January, something didn't quite seem right. He was very hesitant in that particular moment. He's admitted that, he kind of let people know that that's what he was kind of feeling before, the brass of Power Slap, and obviously some of the production crew, because of Charlie Arnott, was trying to, push him towards this announcement. And we've seen that he's felt very uncomfortable in doing so. And then following that, they never took him out of that light heavyweight championship spot, usually where we see when athletes retire in the UFC, usually the Tuesday when the rankings come out, those athletes vacate the spot and they're off the website. We never seen that with Wolverine. He was there the entire time. Now he's back International Fight Week, where he's no stranger, to competing. It's seemingly when the stage gets bigger and new opportunities, Wolverine rises to the top. He did it over in Saudi Arabia, the first ever headliner there. And now coming back International Fight Week against Russell Rivero. I think in a lot of ways, I think Damien DeBell obviously was a big, match for him at heavyweight. Damien's, remained the champion at heavy. But I do think at light heavyweight, Russell Rivero, and where he's at in his game, the amount of time that he's had off, could be, actually, I think definitively is probably going to be his biggest challenge at light heavyweight to this particular time. And this match, I think, will go under the radar just with some of the other star power of, Dumpling and the super heavies with, Mikael-Michelle Brown and Paige Vanzant, who we'll talk about next. But I do believe that this match is going to be one that we'll look back and be very fond about, for times to come. And, I still think my favorite match of all time was Ron Beta versus Darius, Meta Verona. And what Ron was able to do there, the storyline, avenging the monkey off his back that he lost to Darius multiple times in Slap Fight Championship. And, coming into Power Slap, the first ever heavyweight champion, being able to get that belt and, really change, I think, in a lot of ways, the first time we've seen an overhand right used in a slap that ended up putting Darius down. And, it'll always be, one of those fond spots in my memory, first event ever seeing it live. And we'll see if this match can rival what he did before. And he's definitely not a shortage of highlights, even what he did against Vern Cathy, incredibly exciting. And we'll see how this one breaks down and breaks out. For Russell to win, Ding, what do you think some of the keys to victory are for him?
I think the most important thing is no fouls. I think fouls in a 5-round fight are not as detrimental. The problem is his kind of power with a foul, it leaves a lot of room for KO, TKO. And the last thing you want is the same thing that happened last time he challenged for a title. So I think focusing on not fouling is important. He's had clubs and steps. So I think it's important to clean those things up. I'm a little nervous about the inactivity. And so I think that's why I think the fouls are more important for him to focus on, making sure he's not. I think Wolverine is an incredibly clean striker. I think most people would agree with that. He probably forsakes power by being so clean. And I think that he knows that also. I think he's acknowledged that on this platform. So I think Russell has to ensure that he's clean. If that means he has to take a little bit off of his shots to ensure that that's the case and sort of chip away at the legend, I think that IQ for IQ, Wolverine probably has the edge. And so I think it's extremely important for Russell to adjust his game just a little bit to ensure that the time off doesn't become the thing that sinks him, because he has been foul prone in the past. And I don't mean that in a disrespectful way. His last 2 matches, he didn't foul, but they were also very short. And they were also against guys that don't have the same kind of IQ. Wolverine will adjust throughout the fight. At the same time, though, Wolverine's chin has been cracked before. And we've seen that by Austin Turpin. We've seen that by Damien DeBell. Sure, it was at heavyweight. I would argue Russell Rivero has heavyweight level power. And so I think if he can just ensure that these strikes are clean, then he can, take advantage of the accumulation and damage and get Wolverine, the legend, out of there.
Yeah. I mean, Wolverine, a guy, like I said, keeps, reinventing himself. As you alluded to, the fight IQ is definitely one of the strengths that he has going into this particular match. We've seen him innovate and change and adapt to every single, striker he's gone up against. I think that's one of the most important factors that we see here from Wolverine is he's going to game plan specifically for Russell Rivero. And I think if he fights this fight at his pace, I think it leans to his advantage. I think we're going to see Russell with a ton of energy, a ton of excitement. He's going to want to get up there, fast. He's going to push the pace. I think if Wolverine remains composed, doesn't get into, the antics, doesn't try to keep pushing the pace, trying to, show in the judge's eyes that he's ready to go. I think if he plays at his pace and is to tactically be able to outsmart Russell, either on the offense or the defensive side, whether you bait him into fouls or not, Ron keeps, obviously changing what he does in his approach and is a tactician of the sport, and he finds, ways to continue within the rule set to get an advantage. I think we see that for him in this particular one, and I think he's going to need to do it, to become victorious and retain his belt in this particular matchup. So overall, Mr. Ding, these matchups are fire. We're going to get into it. The women, first time we're getting the belt in the women 125, the women's flyweight. Mikael-Michelle Brown, the challenger, I guess, in this one. I guess they're both challengers. I'm probably outspeaking going up against Paige Vanzant, just saying that because the first time they both fought, Paige Vanzant was the victor. This time we're getting the second rendition of it. The first time we're getting a belt. If you haven't seen the promo that we cut over on our Instagram page, go check that out. Great promo piece and sound bites of both Paige and Mikael-Michelle and this upcoming match. There's been, definitely a deficit of women's matches in Power Slap. We've kind of seen the inequity in the amount of fights that have been going back and forth. When Amy Kaplan has been a big advocate for women in Power Slap, she's asked for a belt in the women's division and more women's matches, for the better part of 2 years now. We're getting that opportunity now. I'm sure she's incredibly excited for that, even though she's exited the media room for now. But she's asked for this. Is the time right now, Ding, to get this match done and get a belt around the waist of one of these ladies?
What I will say is that I think that 125 has become the fullest division, with a lot of people migrating from 35 down. Mm-hmm. Although it feels abrupt because the division hasn't been around that long. Excuse me. I do believe, and I hear the comments about Sheena, and I got it, but Sheena's division has nobody in it. That's just the truth. Who would she be defending the belt against? So while I understand sort of the skepticism about why Paige gets a belt, is it about her name value? Is it whatever? I mean, all of that speculation might have some merit to it. I don't know. I'm not sure what the thought process was, but I will say 125 has filled out very quickly, right? People like Chelsea Dotson moving down, obviously new entrants like Nicole DeSigny. You also have Jamie Hinshaw and Peter competed at 115. Could you see them, make it to 125? You've had Marisol Ruelas and Jose Favela competed at 35. They've talked about not being against going down, depending on what the weight cut would look like. Nicole Schaefer, Ty Emery, both want to compete at 25. So I think that division has a lot more talent in it. 45 had Jackie Cataline and it had Sheena and Christine Wolmerans. Now it has Christine Wolmerans, Sheena, Jackie's going down to 35. Who else is there? So that's the reason why there's no belt. It doesn't happen. And Paige has competed. This will be her fourth match in a year. She debuted at Power Slap 8 June of last year. This is her fourth time competing. So to Brandon Bordeaux's comment, yes, she's way more active. And I think, Mikael-Michelle Brown has come in and become a surging star through Power Slap. Paige, obviously, a ton of equity. And I think Paige learned a lot from her draw against Chelsea Dotson. And you saw that in her match against Mikael-Michelle Brown. In the same sense, I think Mikael-Michelle Brown will learn from the Paige defeat after she comes off of a performance against, Emily Whitmire, who I also forgot to mention, who's at 125 also. Is that something that, I think we'll see their improvements between the two of them. Paige from suffering a draw and Mikael-Michelle Brown from suffering defeat. And I think that this match will probably surprise a lot of people in how technical it is and how much improvement we see.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, this matchup definitely one that pegs two of the biggest stars in Power Slap. I think it's very safe to say Mikael-Michelle Brown, since coming on the scene, has been one of the rising stars. I mean, she's been a social media darling. Everything she does seems to turn to gold. She's getting the attention of sponsors. She's taking this incredibly seriously. We know that she quit her day job to focus on training and to really make this a career. We did see, obviously, she wasn't able to put Paige away or knock her down, in the first match. Is she going to be able to do enough to change that trajectory? We know she worked with Pono Paul the first time, and her strike wasn't able to knock her down. now that she's had this opportunity, time to get back in the gym, to train, get hard, get harder. It's the first time she ever made that weight cut too, to 125. Obviously, Paige Vanzant was somebody that has fought down there in the UFC or, MMA. But this was the first time that Mikael-Michelle Brown was going to feel what it was like for that cut. How, would the power still be there? And, kind of leading into it, I remember speaking to her, she was like 5 pounds away, I think, roughly 2 weeks out. And, if you've never done it, you don't know. And some of that uncertainty, now we've seen it. And now we're going to see, how it kind of unfolds here. So we've got Paige Vanzant sitting at a record of 2-1 in power slap. The draw, obviously, to Chelsea Dodson, taking place over in Abu Dhabi, by 2 victories over Christine Wolmerans and Mikael-Michelle Brown at power slap number 12. A journey woman, I guess you would say. MMA, boxing, slap fighting, bare knuckle. I'm probably sure I'm missing something in there, but she's been a multi-sport athlete and someone who continues to come back to power slap, put on a show, get eyeballs on the sport. And I think anytime you can get someone with that type of celebrity, status in power slap who can perform is great for the sport. And I mean, for a lot of ways, for Paige Vanzant, she's got a lot of hate on social media for joining power slap. She continues to push through. She's one of the most media ready superstars in all of power slap, right back to her debut when they, rolled her out to the UFC media. And, I think a victory in this one for her would give the validation, I think, to a lot of the naysayers as to why she is doing this. And, will definitely cement her legacy in combat sports and be the biggest achievement. I don't know if she'd admit that or not, but probably be her biggest achievement as of yet, in all of her combat sports. So we'll see. There's definitely a narrative to this on both sides. I think both these women are incredibly, primed for the opportunity. They're both young, both superstars. But dang, what does Mikael-Michelle Brown have to do in order to avenge that loss from Power Slap 12?
I think this is probably the toughest one to break down because they were so even on the defensive side. It was the offensive side where there was a major difference, and I think power was a bit of a problem. I thought they both took the strikes really well, but I just felt like what Paige was doing was a little bit more emphatic. It felt realer. It felt harder. It felt like it had more oomph behind it compared to Mikael-Michelle Brown. I think she needs to flip the script in this case, and I think that she really needs to try to generate that power and get Paige off her game because we haven't seen Paige out of her element, taken out of her element in that way up to this point. And the reason why is because she hasn't been hit by somebody that is going to give her that challenge on the power side. It's all the same. Christine Wolmerans, Chelsea Dodson. She seems a little kind of hesitant or I'll call it nervous, but it's not a bad nervous. It's just more everybody wants to feel what the first strike is going to feel like. Once she gets that shot out of the way and she knows what it feels like, you just see her confidence just skyrocket. And I think that deflates her opponent. And so I think for Mikael-Michelle Brown, she has to remain composed and she really has to adjust based on what she's seeing up there. The other question that will sort of have to be answered here is, does Paige Vanzant go to her left hand? Does she stick with her right, even though that's the hand that she broke, or the arm that she broke, 4 times while she was competing in MMA? What will the decision be when push comes to shove? Because I think that'll also be important because she believes her left hand is more powerful. So is it possible that now Mikael-Michelle Brown has to prepare for a new game plan? Because I believe Paige said that she would like to go back to her left hand, if I'm not mistaken, which means now you got something, are you prepared the same way on your left side? Well, I guess for Michael's front, it would be her right side. But for a left-handed strike is what I should say. So, I think strength is a big one. Try to generate more power. And I also think, be prepared for potentially strikes on the opposite side than you're used to. Because I don't know off the top of my head if Mikael-Michelle Brown's been hit on her right side. I believe Emily Whitmire is a right-handed striker also. So
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, Paige Vanzant to be victorious, I think has to do a lot of the same. I mean, as you alluded to, her defense, relatively the same on both sides for these athletes. The offensive side, like you said, she just had a bit more of an umph to her. The confidence, built after she felt the power of Michael-Michelle Brown. You know, the veteran, I guess that she is. I mean, MMA record of 8-5. Combat veteran for sure. She's been hit. I'm sure she's been hit, hard in training as well, probably by both males and females. And if that confidence continues to skyrocket for her, I think it adds an extra level to her game. And we'll see. I mean, she's got the personality to kind of go about it. We know that she's got obviously the social media fame and stardom behind it. Even though that's not a criteria with the judges, with the confidence and how the crowd gets into it. And, she's one of those polarizing people. People either love her or hate her. And I think we've said it, on this channel before that Paige Vanzant is good for the sport, whether you like it or not, whether she, whether she's victorious or not, having her here brings additional eyeballs to the sport. And if she can continue to do what she did at Power Slap 12, she's going to, even just see even just how confident she is right now as she's getting ready. Like there's just that extra little motivation, the head, nodding and everything else. And hey, shout out to Vern White in the second row in the back as well.
Yeah, you can't miss
guy.
that beard and the bucket hat. But
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean the confidence, man, it looks very one-sided here.
Yeah.
I know Michael-Michelle Brown has talked at length about the crowd and kind of what that experience did to her. But even in that first strike that Paige took from Michael, it felt like it wasn't deep enough. It felt like it was very, very, very superficial. That she caught kind of the really, really front of that maxilla or the cheekbone there, and then kind of really didn't have anything to push through with. Whereas if you see Paige VanZant, the edge of her palm is kind of in line with her nose. That tells you that the strike is there. But if you look comparatively here, you'll see Michael Brown when she strikes, it feels like more fingertips.
Yeah.
So
but I mean, Michael-Michelle Brown, as she progresses here with more and more matches, I mean, she's going to get better. So I think that experience is, definitely going to help her. She's going to learn. She knows what she did right. She knows what she did wrong. In this first match, and to really have. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. I think this was the first time we actually seen her on a live card as well.
Correct. Yeah. So I think that live crowd difference is going to be important. Having been in front of the live crowd at one point in the past, it shouldn't produce the same jitters. And again, so here again, I just think that these strikes are just extremely surface level.
Yeah.
She needs to be able to go deeper and really catch a hook on Paige's face and send the whole thing moving. That may be that might be a distance thing. That might be a hand, positioning thing, but it's the same thing here. Very, very, kind of like this. Whereas, and you'll see it like her, the middle of her palm touches the nose. Like you need that to be a little bit further deep.
For sure. And I think she clinches her left hand a little bit too quickly, and it kills some of that rotation. You see it start, and then she kind of brings it in, and I think loses some of that momentum potentially. But I mean, we'll give Michael-Michelle Brown a lot of credit. I mean, she wasn't discouraged. A lot of people, you'd hit Paige VanZant in round 1 and not be able to do damage. She wasn't discouraged. Round 2, round 3, she still kept that same confidence, going through, and definitely going to be exciting to see the second matchup. The crowds always goes crazy for these women matches. We know win, lose, or draw that, the audience is definitely going to be in tune for it. And the outcome, we're going to a women's belt for the first time. So definitely exciting thing. I know we went a little bit longer. Didn't have any guests this time. We roll at it solo, but hopefully you guys enjoyed the analysis. I mean, 4 title fights, we don't get very long, so that's why we had to break it down for you guys. We appreciate everybody who tunes in, whether you tune in for a minute, whether you tune in for an hour, whether you comment, your likes, your follows. All of it is greatly appreciated. If you guys could do us a favor as well, Head Rush is supporting us and helping us be able to do, these events and be able to do them bigger and better than ever. So if you guys can support them along the way, we greatly appreciate it. Until next time, next week, same place, same time. Stay good.